Hello the booktube, my name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel Guilty Feet. I've got no rhythm. Happy days are here again. We have the Booker long list and I'm here to give you my reaction to that. In the past, I feel like I've been a little dismissive. I've said that books aren't worth reading because of someone's name, or that books are worth reading because the author has a hyphen in their last name. Some of this was considered spurious. And I'm here today to give you a more serious response to the books that have been nominated. I will note that in the past, one of those authors that was nominated that I was very pleased to see, Ayobami Adebayo, because her name has a whole bunch of diacritical marks in all places where you wouldn't expect them. And when I met Miss Adebayo, and she signed one of her books for me, she had in her signature, she has all the marks as well as knowing which letters to put in. She has to know where to put all the accents as well. So it's a great name and boded really well to have her on the judges, that we were going to get some really interesting linguistic surprises in our authors' names or the titles of books, and we didn't really. It's quite a dull list of names, and the books themselves, some really dull names, lots of one-word titles, words. There's a couple of there with two words, just two very boring words put next to each other to create title of books. One of the great things about this list of judges is it's headed by Roddy Doyle, who may be one of the best ever Booker Prize winners. He won 32 years ago for Paddy Clark, ha ha ha. And he has a new book coming out, which is the third in the Paula Spencer series, which has been probably 20 years since the last one, maybe not so many, maybe. And I'm really looking forward to that. I have a copy waiting for me in London, where I'll be in 2 weeks' time. But let's get on. Oh, it's Sarah Jessica Parker's also on the list, of course. Kylie Reid, who I haven't read, and a chap called a literary critic called Chris Power. Is that the other name? Yeah. So that's all the judges. And the long list, it looks like, based on some of the videos that I was watching beforehand of people predicting it, it looks like it's taken a few people by surprise. The only name that I'm surprised not to see in the list is Ian McEwan, just because he's one of the greatest living writers and has a new book out, which is also waiting for me in London. I'm super excited to read that. More excited probably than anything else on this list, but that's a personal thing that I love Ian McEwan. But let's go through these books. We'll look at each one. I will tell you what my response to them is, what my experience previously has been with that author, if that comes up. I've read one out of the 13 books on this list. There's one of them that I've already read, and I'll talk to you about that. Another one that I've just purchased, and two, or at least one, no, two, definitely two, and maybe a third in my basket to purchase, and probably will purchase. So it'll be waiting for me in London when I get there, second week in August. Let's have a look at the list. So the first one, and on the book website, it has them in some kind of order, and it doesn't seem to be in alphabetical order by book title or alphabetical order by author name. It just seemed to have vomited it onto into a list, which I guess is kind of funky, but I'm going to go through them one by one. And the first on the list is a book called Misinterpretation, which is, according to, I'm getting all this information from things that are important to me. Who is blurbing the book? Because it's a terrible guilt by association, and also the length of the book is becoming increasingly important for me. If it looks like it's kind of interesting, but it's 700 pages, it's going to be a hard lift for me. So I keep looking over there because I put myself, I need to look in the camera. Misinterpretation. Now, the person's name is Lydia Shoga, Xhoga. So apologies. I believe she's an Albanian author. So this is the Dua Lipa of the list. And who doesn't love a little bit of Dua Lipa on their list? And Misinterpretation, I put in my basket. I think I'm going to purchase it. Couple of reasons why. First of all, it's available on Amazon UK right now for £9.95, which is £3 or £4 cheaper than most of the hardbacks on this list. So it doesn't look like it got a hardback release, just out in paperback, and that's £10. Seems to me a reasonable price to try something. Now this is, so first of all, the other thing was blurbed, according to Amazon, by Rita Bullwinkle, who, one of the greatest names in literature. I read Headshot, really found it interesting, if imperfect. Also blurb by Jennifer Croft. I haven't read her book, but I have read some of her translations. So I thought that was, she passed that test. And then the book is 328 pages, which is a little worrying. But I think I'm going to pull the trigger on Misinterpretation and see where that goes. I like the idea. She's an Albanian author, and the story is about an Albanian interpreter in New York. That kind of intrigues me. And as ill-fated decisions stack up, jeopardizing the nameless narrator's marriage and mental health, I'm kind of there for that. Okay, next up on the list is Sea Scraper. That's not a great name for a book. Sea Scraper, a mesmerizing portrait of a young man hemmed in by circumstance and class. Well, if that wasn't true. By an author called Benjamin Wood. A bit of a dull name, and I believe Mr. Wood has published other books in the past. I've never read Benjamin Wood, so apologies. I don't know much about it. But here's the two parts of this blurb interested me. One was a quote in the Sunday Times which says, "Britain's answer to Donna Tartt." Well, that intrigues me. And then underneath, "What a Writer" by Richard Osman, and that double interested me because I like Richard Osman, and he's fairly sort of mainstream and he's not too out there, and he wouldn't consider himself a deeply literate writer. But I've had great experience with Richard Osman as a writer, and I enjoy his podcast as well. And comparing an author to Donna Tartt, well, that's you got to be careful with that because that's a strong recommendation. So I sort of lean towards this, and then there's a quote from Douglas Stewart, Ross Raisin, who I never read, Benjamin Myers, Andrew O'Hagan, who I've read, and then a fantastic quote where Benjamin Wood is called a huge talent by Hilary Mantel, who's not with us for a number of years already. So I don't know how long such a compliment lasts before it goes off. Okay, and the best thing in favour of Sea Scraper by Benjamin Wood, in my opinion, is that it's 176 pages. That's interesting to me. Unfortunately, Amazon have the hardcover still at £12.09, which it seems like a lot. But I would consider it. Sea Scraper is just a terrible title, and that nothing in the description of the book. Thomas lives a slow, deliberate life with his mother in Longferry, working his grandpa's trade as a shanker. I mean, that's a terrible opening sentence for a book description. So, on the fence with Benjamin Wood, 176 pages interest me, but little else so far. Next up is Flesh by... I just watched Bob the Booker do a live announcement of the live coverage of the announcement of the list, and he was talking about this book before the list was released, and I wrote to him and said, "Sorry, can you just say how you pronounce that name again?" This is David Szala. I think he said something like Zole. I don't know what he said. And I made him. And then he repeats it because I wrote a message to him and repeated it, and then he said it again at the end, and I still can't get how to pronounce this guy's name, which I think is an advantage to him, disadvantage to me, because if I buy this book and I invest the time and I read it, and then people say to me, as they sometimes do, "Daniel, you read anything good recently?" And I have to say, "Yeah, this book by..." Right, so I just wish on the cover, if you do, I could do a search on one of these YouTube videos where it'll pronounce the name for you. I really need Bob Booker has said it 3 times, and I can't remember it in my head. So Flesh, but he was crazy about the book. It's called the addictive and darkly funny new novel from a previously Booker Prize shortlisted. So his last book that was shortlisted was called All That Man Is, I think, and that intrigued me, and I missed it. And I didn't get it. I missed the opportunity. The window is probably gone. And maybe if I found it very cheap in a secondhand store. And this book is and here's a black mark if we're doing guilt by association. This book is blurbed by David Nichols. David Nichols wrote One Day, which is a terrible book. And so I'm kind of against anything that David Nichols is attached to. I really thought that was a book that treated its reader like an absolute moron, and I have very little respect for the author. Other people who wrote Us and Started for 10, and people seem very fond of David Nichols, but I'm not. So I'm sorry, David, unpronounceable last name. You've been tainted by another David. It's problem. Too many Davids. How many pages is this? Let's just put a final nail in this coffin, because I don't think it's 368 pages. Not terrible. Yeah. So the last book, All That Man Is, He got the Gordon Byrne Prize, which I'm fond of the fact there's a prize for Gordon Byrne, not the Krypton Factor Gordon Byrne, but the late novelist and political writer. So yeah, Flesh kind of intrigues me. The price, let's look at this on Amazon. Hardcover with the Amazon discount of 22%, it's £14.75, which is a lot for me. So again, not going with Flesh for now. Next up on the list is Endling. Endling by Maria Reva, R-E-V-A. So I've already, I think, this one, yeah, I think I found a copy of this on eBay. So Amazon is selling it for £17.57, which is the very top of what I spent. I found a copy, it was £1 cheaper on eBay, and pulled the trigger and bought it because this is now this is where blurbs are super interesting, because Endling, according to Amazon, I'm looking at the British Amazon site, is blurbed by Anne Patchett and Percival Everett. Now, that's a winning combination for me. And it's so silly to be, I'm saying, on the one hand, I'm being spurious about these things, but actually, someone who buys new books and reads new books, that combination, Anne Patchett and Percival Everett, really sort of sold it to me. And her last book was blurb. What was it? I also saw in a previous book that had some good. Ben Fountain's also got a blurb here, and I liked Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. Marcel Theroux. There was something about her last book. I don't remember. Anyway, this is 352 pages, which again, I love everything to be under 200 pages. But I've pulled the trigger and I've purchased a copy of Endling, and it'll be waiting for me in London because I kind of fancy that. And also a lot of those long list videos suggested this was had a chance for taking the whole prize. So I'm going to read that while it's on the long list, see where it takes me. That's Endling by Maria Reva. Next up, we have The Land in Winter, which won the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction, according to Amazon. This came out October 2024, and it's by Andrew Miller. And I have Andrew Miller. Yeah. Did I miss some of these things already? Yeah, I read Ingenious Pain by Andrew Miller, and I read this. The date I've written in it is April 98. So I read this 27 years ago, and because it was, I don't know if it won a prize there or it came up. It was on my radar at some point, and I went out and purchased and read Ingenious Pain, and it didn't make me want to read anything else by Andrew Miller. I know he's published a whole bunch of books since then. It is the dullest name in literature, Andrew Miller. I mean, there's another Andy Miller who does does a book podcast, and it's not him, and he's always have to say, no, I'm not that Andrew Miller, I'm this Andrew. I don't think I'm going to pick up The Land in Winter. Hardcover on Amazon is £17.57, so although they seem to have new and used copies for £9.99, or it ends up being £15 with postage. Let's say how many pages Andrew Miller's book is. Land in Winter, also dull name, Andrew. Ingenious Pain, great name. The Land in Winter, 384 pages. Okay, moving on. We've got next The Rest of Our Lives by Benjamin Markovits. And he's a name I've seen before, and I haven't picked up anything else by Benjamin Markovits. Is this his best book to date? I'd love people to tell me if this is. So what they've got on Amazon, often when they put a book title in the search terms, they have the book title, and then they have either a quote or it's won a prize. And here they've got a quote from The Guardian where it says, "The Rest of Our Lives, excellent. A male counterpart to Miranda July's All Fours." Now, I happen to love Miranda July's All Fours, so that is actually a good recommendation for me. No other, as far as I can see, there were no other big names blurbing him. So that was a quote from The Guardian, but there's something by Claire Chambers and Lucy Caldwell, neither of those names that I'm familiar with. But I do like that quote about a male version of All Fours, and it's published by Faber and Faber, which is on my, was usually a sign of quality, and 256 pages. Which is certainly in its favour. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on this, but if this made the shortlist, this might be something that I would pick up a little bit later. That's The Rest of Our Lives by Ben Markovits. Then we've got Audition by Katie Kitamura, which is the one book of all these 13 that I've read. I think I did a review of it. So, Audition by Katie Kitamura. Here's my thing with Audition by Katie Kitamura. So, this has got a blurb front by Samantha Harvey, or a blurb in Amazon by Samantha Harvey, who won the Booker Prize last year. I found out recently, and it's also blurred by Rachel Kushner, not great. Hernan Diaz, I never read that. And Lauren Groff, who I adore. I found out recently that Katie Kitamura is married to not what's his name? The guy with the white tears and red what's his face. Anyway, another author who I very much admired. So I love the fact that there are two. I don't want to define someone who they're married to, but I love the idea of these two literary authors who I've enjoyed 2 books of each of them, and living together and being married. Here's my issue with Audition winning or being shortlisted. It's not as good as Intimacy. It's terrific, and it's weird, and you really need to concentrate a little bit because things change up in the middle, and you go, what? And sort of reality shifts a little bit. But Intimacy is such an amazing book. Something I've lent to a bunch of people and really enjoyed it. So that's my issue. That Audition kind of not as great, and I really enjoyed it, but I think Intimacy is the better book, and so I'm hesitant to think about giving a prize to an author's not best book. It's Audition by Katie Kitamura, but I've read it and I liked it very much, and I would recommend it. Next up on the long list is The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kieran Desai. Why do I say oh? Kieran Desai is a former Booker Prize winner. She wrote The Inheritance of Loss. She's the daughter of Anita Desai, I believe, who I haven't read. I read this in 2000. I bought this in December 2006, so I probably read this early 2007. It won the Booker Prize. One of my least favourite Booker Prize winners, and I don't have a burning need to read another book by Kieran Desai, especially not one that is selling in hardcover for almost £20 and is 688 pages. So Kieran Desai, Bob the Booker, I think, has a copy and was very excited to read The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. I am not excited to read it. I read The Inheritance of Loss, didn't love it, and so I will probably be skipping, even if it wins. Okay, what's up next? Next we've got another. This is a response video. Suzanne Choy's Flashlight. I read Suzanne Choy's last book, Trust Exercise, which won the National Book Award, maybe in America. I really, really didn't like that at all. Twist which made no sense and unearned, and again, sort of taking the reader on a journey, or sort of dragging the reader along behind you on a journey that wasn't earned by the prose, or wasn't as clever as it needed to be in order to pull off the twist. Really did not enjoy Trust Exercise, and as a result will not be reading A Flashlight by Suzanne Choy. Some great blurbs here. Eleanor Catton, Jennifer Egan, and then Raven Lalani, who wrote Luster. Let's look at the number of pages. Let's see if I can stick a nail in this coffin. 464 pages. Susan, no, I'm going to cut it out. If it had been under 360 pages, then maybe I could have. But I'm just not going to countenance 464 pages from Suzanne Choy. Sorry. Next, One Boat by Jonathan Buckley. I've also put this in my basket, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger when I finish this video. And here's why. 1, it's published by Fitzcarraldo. Who doesn't love Fitzcarraldo? 2, the description is kind of interesting. And 3, it's 176 pages. So these are good reasons where I can spend £10 on One Boat, which is, again, this is what I was saying about 2-word titles that are just 2 words next to each other that do nothing. They offer nothing. One Boat. Maybe the answer, maybe it comes up in the book and becomes the most meaningful thing ever, but I struggle to believe that's the case. It's just a dull name for a book. But I'm going to buy it because for all the reasons I said. 168 pages, so even better. And I love it. So that's One Book by Jonathan Buckley. Not a great name for an author either, really, is it, Jonathan? One Boat. Oh. Next up, we have Universality. That's the title. I don't know what it means. I don't mind what it means. But if you're going to name a book, Natasha Brown, Universality, go back and tell Jonathan Buckley how to name books. So here's my experience with Natasha Brown. I read them. I really enjoyed it. Look at that deliciously short novel. This was got under 100 pages. Wow, fantastic. And so I'm interested in universality. I would love to find a cheap copy. It's £12, and it's also short. What is that? Is so 176 pages, so almost Assembly. I've heard some people saying it's not as good as Assembly, which is a shame. It wouldn't necessarily stop me buying it because if I can start reading an author in the early stages of their career. So I've read her first novel. This is the second one. It's getting some buzz. It's been shortlisted. David Nichols has shown up in the blurbs again. So the curse of David Nichols. But to read a 176-page novel that's shortlisted or longlisted for a prize, the early stage of all this is an investment. Natasha Brown will be publishing for probably the rest of my life, and to follow her through her career is kind of interesting to me. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on a copy of Universality because I think £12 is, in this instance, is more than I want to spend. I'd like to wait a little bit. If it makes a shortlist, I'll definitely pick up a copy. If it doesn't make the shortlist, I'll probably wait until I can find a copy cheaper than it's currently available. That's Universality by Natasha Brown. Looking forward to it, but not pulling the trigger yet. Next up is The South by Tash Orr. If I'm pronouncing that right, a Malaysian author who I think the last time they had a book when they said I don't know what it's something about nominated for shortlisted or longlisted for every book they were publishing. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with Tan, what's his face. I haven't read any Tash Orr, and I've seen the titles of these books over and again. There's a blurb here by Yun Lee. I didn't love that book. And how many pages have we got? The South. 288 pages. That's in its favour. I feel, sometimes like with Natasha Brown, because I read her first novel and I'm, looking forward to reading a second novel and following through her career, I've missed the Tash Orr train a little bit, and I feel like jumping in now is a bit sort of chasing after the train and trying to catch up with it. And I'm not so intrigued or desperate to read this, so at the moment it's off my list. Sorry, Tash. The last book in this long list is got a terrible cover. This is Love Forms by Claire Adam, who I'm not familiar with, but some things that worry me about this book. First of all, let's go with some of the stuff. First of all, 304 pages is not terrible, but there's some red flags for me. So the first blurb is from Marian Keyes. Now, I know some people love Marian Keyes. I've never read Marian Keyes. I don't associate her. I don't think of her as a literary author. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm not sure a recommendation from Marian Keyes is aimed at me as a reader. Now, there's also this quote from the Times, which really, really threw me. There was a full quote somewhere. I don't remember where I saw it. Somewhere. Well, 1 second. I really want to get the whole thing because it really put me off entirely. Oh, I can't find the thing. I'm sure I saw it. Here you go. So this was by, I guess, a critic or a writer. I don't know the name. Johanna Thomas Corr. The last part is hyphenated. Thomas Corr, Corr, and this is the entire quote I got here. There's ellipsis, so I'm guessing this bit's missing. Every bit as brilliant as her debut. Golden Child. Now, and this is it is red flags all the way through this. Every bit as brilliant as her debut. If Golden Child reads like an Arthur Miller play written by J.M. Coetzee. Now, I'm a huge Arthur Miller fan. I would not want to read an Arthur Miller play written by J.M. Coetzee. I never know how to pronounce his name either. Two-time Booker Prize winner. I read the first one. I read Disgrace and didn't get on with it at all. So if Golden Child, the early novel, reads like an Arthur Miller play written by J.M. What's-his-face. Love Forms reads like get ready for this, because it's also the same Game of Two Halves, reads like a Claire Keegan short story, expanded by Elizabeth Strout. red flags on the word expanded, a short story expanded. No one wants to read an expanded short story. That's just padding. That's just something that your publisher, your agent tells you to do because you've written a short story and nobody will buy a short story or give you any money for a short story. Or even if you put it into a collection, will be able to shift units as a short story. So a short story expanded, red flag, by Elizabeth Strout. Orange flag. I love Olive Kitteridge. I loved Olive again. I read the first William book and sort of dropped off from then. So, but I don't want to see an Arthur Miller play written by your man from South Africa, and I don't want to see a Claire Keegan short story. Which Claire Keegan's novels, short novels, are wholly perfect in the form that they arrive in. I don't want to see one expanded, and not particularly by Elizabeth Strout. So that was red flags all over. And that is the last of this long list, Love Forms by Claire Adam. So I think I haven't dismissed the entire long list as I may have done the last couple of years. One that I read, Audition, which I recommend. I just don't think it's a winner. And Misinterpretation, I'm going to buy. Endling, I've bought. I think I'm going to buy One Boat because of the Fitzcarraldo. I may get to Natasha Brown's book. And what was the other one? I can't remember the other one I said I would purchase as well, but it's in my basket, so I'm going to go from here and buy that right now. So that's my long list. I just don't think I'm dismissing it as a list in a way I've done the last couple of years. I'm not saying I'm all the way back in with Booker, but a couple of books here that I'm kind of intrigued to read. Hope you're having fun. God bless. Enjoy the list. Bye.